America, congratulations. This week our politics set a personal best in cardio, sprinting from crisis to crisis like a reality show on double speed. Why does this week matter? Because by Tuesday night, September 30th, the federal government could once again slam into a brick wall marked out of funds. The White House just rewrote the TikTok saga with a pen dipped in national security ink, and Congress discovered the one bipartisan value left in Washington: performative panic.
Let's start with the looming lights out. The calendar says new fiscal year begins October 1st. Congress says, we promise we'll do homework on the bus.
The House pushed a stopgap that keeps the lights onto late November. Senate Democrats swatted it like a fruit fly, demanding reversals to Medicaid cuts and an extension of ACA subsidies. Republicans call that hostage-taking. Democrats call it health care, or, as pollsters prefer, please clap. Cue the late-hour choreography. Monday summit at the White House with leaders from both chambers, a hurried parade of talking points, and one budget director quietly emailing agencies the polite version of "so" about those furlough plans. If you want the stakes without the jargon, picture this: national parks padlocked, grant checks frozen, 1 million micro-annoyances multiplied by 330 million people. While the only federal employees guaranteed to be paid are the ones arguing on cable about why the other side is heartless. The counterargument is familiar: discipline the budget now or the debt monster eats our future. Fair, except the discipline always seems to start with somebody else's insulin and somebody else's school lunch, while defense and tax carve-outs get tucked into bed with warm milk and a lullaby. Sharp punchline? If governing is a group project, this is the part where the A students do everyone's slides while the chaos kids demand the font be more patriotic. Meanwhile, in the land of apps and angst, Thursday delivered a plot twist. The administration rolled out a new path to save TikTok while protecting national security, aka a divest or deal framework where C5S gets to play bouncer at the data club. Translation: ByteDance can dodge a ban only if the US gets a binding agreement that treats your dance videos like uranium with a ring light. Critics on one flank say it's a gimmick. On the other flank, they say it's not strict enough. My take: in a universe where lawmakers barely agree on lunch, an enforceable data wall is the boring, necessary plumbing. The metaphor is unglamorous. You don't fix a leaky roof by condemning the neighborhood. You install a roof that doesn't leak and check it quarterly. Real-world consequences? Creators breathe for a minute. Advertisers delay their panic, and the courts, already juggling lawsuits about the earlier ban law, get a new, lawyer-scented puzzle to sniff. Here's the fair counterpoint: a hostile government can pressure companies no matter how many American trustees you staple on. True. Response: that's what audits, enforcement triggers, and kill switch penalties are for. Also, maybe Congress should write cyber rules that don't read like they were drafted at a PDA meeting in 1957. Quick detour through the week's chaos carousel. The president teased a rare mass gathering of top brass at Quantico next week, prompting a flurry of "what now?" headlines. West Wing aides insisted routine, which is the Beltway equivalent of "nothing to see here," said while standing in front of a small, controlled fire. Out west, a fresh federal state spat over public safety gave us dueling podiums and one governor insisting her cities are not, in fact, war zones. Thank you very much. And on Capitol Hill, Democrats dropped another packet of Epstein-adjacent records: dry logs, flight manifests, calendar crumbs, the kind of documents that are guaranteed to make a dozen famous people's PR teams write emails with the subject line. Tiny clarification: the pattern is the joke and the warning. A budget cliff that arrives the same week every year like bad pollen, a social media standoff that ricochets between ban it and brand deal. A national security meeting teased like a season finale, and scandal documents that keep dribbling until the internet gets bored or the lawyers find a heavier redaction marker. The hopeful sliver? Voters noticed. This week, government shutdown, outtrend pop culture and search trends, and that's not nothing. Awareness is the prequel to accountability. Not a happy ending, but an opening scene.
Now, if you'll excuse Congress, They have 48 hours to decide whether you get paid. Your park stays open, and your TSA agent still pretends your shampoo is a national threat.
All while swearing it's the other guy's fault and posting a fundraiser to prove it.
Midweek brought a fresh episode of Optics Over Outcomes, starting with a Sunday flourish. On September 28th, the president ordered National Guard units to Portland to protect immigration facilities he described as under siege. It was as if the city had been replaced by a Call of Duty map between brunch and bedtime. Oregon's governor and local officials pushed back hard, insisting they can manage public safety without federal theatrics. This was a polite way of saying, please stop cosplay governing in our zip code. The fact pattern is simple enough to hurt feelings. If there are truly war-level conditions, you show the evidence and coordinate. If there aren't, you're deploying troops to solve a vibes problem. Real-world consequences? You reroute Guard personnel from fires, floods, and the next actual emergency. You risk escalation between state police and federal forces, and you teach Americans that the line between law enforcement and campaign rally is a movable feast. The fairest counterargument is deterrence works, show force, and the trouble never starts. Fine, but then the math should show up. Fewer arrests, fewer incidents, fewer claims. If the numbers don't budge, it's not deterrence, it's theater with a budget. Speaking of staging, set your calendars for Tuesday, September 30th, when the Defense Secretary has summoned an unusually large herd of generals and admirals to Quantico. This was for a rare all hands of starched collars and tight smiles. The official word is routine. The unofficial vibe is surprise assembly in the gym. Every Pentagon lifer I know translates that as something big or someone wants the photo. Hundreds of flag officers burning travel dollars days before a funding cliff is the governance equivalent of lighting sparklers next to the gas pump. Technically permissible, spiritually chaotic. Optimists say this is about message discipline and unity of command. Cynics hear drum beats and wonder whether the CivMil firewall is getting a decorative remodel. The consequence column is not abstract. Pulling commanders from posts for an optics moment means a lot of majors and sergeants actually run Tuesday, which they do every day anyway, but let's not pretend that calling the head table off the restaurant floor improves service. And yes, morale matters. Troops aren't spreadsheets, but morale and politics are not synonyms, and a pep talk is not policy. Now for the subplot no one can escape, the Epstein documents, which on Friday, September 26th, coughed up another slim stack of schedules and names. More flight fragments, calendar crumbs, the sort of paperwork that guarantees a dozen PR teams categorically deny things no one exactly alleged. Facts before fantasies. Being listed in a log is not proof of a crime. It is, however, proof of proximity, and proximity is how influence walks into rooms without showing ID. The immediate effect is pure centrifuge. Cable books the usual too. By two screamers, social feeds light up with red string collages. Congress performs accountability by holding a hearing that clarifies nothing and releases a PDF that breaks the internet for 12 minutes. Fair counterargument. Releasing partial records without context is politics masquerading as sunlight. Response. Daylight is messy. The way you beat innuendo is by releasing more, not less, with timelines, testimony, and the courage to name names even when they are yours. Lay that thread next to everything else this week and the pattern becomes a magic eye poster. Troops where cameras are, generals where microphones are, documents where outrage is, and a government funding clock ticking like a bomb prop in a summer blockbuster. By the way, the stopgap floating around the Capitol runs only to late November because nothing says stability like scheduling the next cliff before you clear the current one. If governing is a group project, this is the part where one kid hoards the glitter, another prints a half-finished chart, and the alleged adult says, "Great effort," while the fire alarm goes off. The hopeful flicker? People are noticing the difference between action and applause. Voters can tell when safety is a slogan, when a military lineup is a backdrop, and when the courts and committees are dangling names without follow-through. Attention is not a cure, but it's the precondition for one. Once the audience stops clapping for the set pieces, the cast sometimes remembers to do the play.